Wednesday, October 25th, 2017, we have flipped the script completely. We, of course, broke this 6 months ago. We have the video coming up. Roger Stone said that it was the Clinton campaign and the deputy FBI director that funded the Pissgate dossier. It's big breaking news today. Corey Feldman's come out against the pedophile elites and so much more, ladies and gentlemen. And the globalists are turning against the Clintons. It's all huge news. But first, revenge is sweet, as they made fun of us for being Russian agents. And now it's blown up in their face because they were the ones on the payroll.
Activate Comrade Jones, phase 2. Yes. Understand. Да. Все идет по плану. Можете рассчитывать на меня. Да.
This morning, the Washington Post reporting that a secret CIA report found Russia interfered in the U.S. election to help Donald Trump win.
That report is now fake. They admit that it's fake.
Russia.
Greg, Russian cyber spying on the United States is not anything new
All
or anything
fake.
unknown, but it seems that this takes it to an unprecedented level.
It's been a cozy relationship from the beginning.
I will not let you down. You will be very, very impressed, I hope. And I think we'll be speaking a lot with
Donald Trump and Alex Jones.
The nation and all of our freedoms hang by a thread, and the military apparatus of this country is about to be handed over to scum who are beholden to scum.
Yes, but Hillary got defeated.
Scum.
So it didn't.
You got all that?
Not for my programming.
I was in there, they took me in the dark hall, my papushka.
Активация программа Альфа Браво Гоблин. Mr. Jones.
Oh, yes, my comrade.
What's your report?
Putin, I do not.
Mr. Jones, you've been activated. This is very important.
Yeah, comrade.
You've done your job so well. The first part of our mission is accomplished. Mr. Trump is in the office soon. We have to build the wall. We have to bring the jobs back. We have to build the economy and family.
Yes, defeat the Americans. Defeat the Americans. Stop the tranny bathrooms. Yes, yes.
Yes, Mr. Jones.
Oh, now let me tell you, some of it is good, some bad. They loved Hillary, so beautiful and pure, and we turned them from the beautiful angel to the devil. I'm sorry. I was in America. I learned that Hillary was good.
No, we have to continue to do our mission.
But comrade, he will get angry. They learned that our top agent is Tucker Carlson, the congressman.
Yes.
The congressman on TV on the Fox News exposes.
You're carrying water for the Kremlin.
I'm not carrying water for the. You're a sitting member of Congress on the Intel Committee, and you can't say they hacked.
You're gonna have to move your show to RT Russian television because
you know what?
This
That's
is perfect.
Just so beneath your office because it's so dumb and you're being duplicitous.
Our programs are moving forward to cut the taxes and to allow the Americans to breathe again. And the program is working to contain the collapse of the United States so it does not fall to globalism. And the report is continuing to not fund radical jihadis and other evils. And the report is continuing to let the families actually raise their children and not give them the vaccines and lower their IQs. We are destroying America as planned. We are doing well, and it's wrong because Hillary is an angel.
It's also what happens when you listen to the radio host, Alex Jones. I don't know what happens in somebody's mind or how dark their heart must be.
I began to realize that she is an angel and she wants to help me.
No, you've got to be sent for reprogramming. Hillary.
Not reprogramming. No.
All right.
No, Hillary. Hillary, save me, Bobby.
Russian scum.
Now, I was sent for reprogramming, and this is the result you're about to see right now.
We pledge allegiance to Comrade Putin and his great minion, Donald J. Trump, to make America great again. We pledge this plan to destroy the Americans, to save their economy and their people and their border and their military. Hail Putin! Hail Russia! We will never surrender!
Здравствует Россия и Америка!
Yes.
За дружбу народов!
Yes, that is the KGB plan. Well done, comrades. We'll show the Americans. Make America great again. That's what show them. For about 18 years, people thought I was a fearmonger.
You got it.
They said I was trying to scare people.
We see the Earth. You got it.
And I even learned that the globalists thought that I was somewhat of a joke because they thought, oh, he'll just scare the public for us. Those that are actually awake will just be scared by Jones because our plan is so horrible that those that can actually face it will just be intimidated to shut up. And so leave Jones alone. Back at a time where they could have killed me and it wouldn't have been that big a deal. But now, you see, we understand that my gut was always right. I just went with my instincts. There was no calculation. It was justice be done though the heavens may fall. If I know something bad's happening, if there's a wildfire coming, like we have here in Central Texas on a routine basis, and it's burning down thousands of houses, and my house is in the way, I evacuate in case the fires get to my house. About 4 or 5 years ago, there were horrible wildfires all around Central Texas, and one got within about a half mile of my house, and I just said, let's go into town and stay at the Four Seasons with my wife and children. And they ended up fighting it and stopping it, but I just wasn't going to sit there with one road out with a fire coming in when I lived out in the hill country. If you know a dam breaks 50 miles up the river and you know in a couple hours it's going to get there and flood your town, it's not fear-mongering to go knock on neighbors' doors and say, let's do something about this. It's taking corrective action. And yeah, it's crazy that they're putting vaccines into the population designed to hurt people. It's crazy they know GMO by the third generation in every mammal study causes super freakazoid deformities in 90% or more. It's scary to know they've had clones and human-animal clones for at least 30 years, but it's admitted, so we're going to cover it, and it is scary. But we're not just covering it to scare people. We're covering it because I believe in you, and I believe when you're actually faced with a problem, you're going to take action. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the last 4 years, I've been a lot more positive. Because when I go out on the streets of America, or the streets of England, or the streets of Mexico, or the streets of Honduras, or the streets of Italy, or the streets of Spain, or the streets of Scotland, I can't walk 20 feet without people shaking my hand. It's not about Alex Jones. It's about understanding as a litmus test, as a sensor, as a probe, that you're a private person. People don't know who you are. By the way, that's a great value. I have stuck myself in the middle of this like a weather vane, like a fuel gauge. And I have sampled the public's will. And about 4 years ago, it happened. We went from probably 1 person out of 20 people knowing who I was to 1 out of 3 or 4 to now 50-50, and almost all of them agreeing with me. I don't need polls. I can walk down the street. So if the madman Alex Jones is incredibly popular with most people, what does that say about the globalists? It means they're done. If my ham-fisted assault on the globalist with your help, 99% of it is you, the audience, and this crew. I'm just one focal point of somebody that doesn't care what the crowd said, who doesn't care about peer pressure, and knew I was right because the globalists wrote books and documents admitting the plan. They were so arrogant. They thought you were in such a trance. They thought you were so asleep that you'd never wake up. But now we're entering the season of awakening. Bannon calls it the season of war. We've been waging the information war for decades. And InfoWars only picked up where people like Barry Goldwater and Ron Paul and others, like the John Birch Society, started. So I'm just the wave before the big wave you're now seeing, and even bigger waves coming. Waves so big, they're unstoppable. It's called the Renaissance. And the globalists need to stand down and need to get on their knees before the will of the people and the common sense of the species and say no to the eugenics operation and no to the New World Order and no to the Satan worship and the transhumanism and all of it. And you need to understand that we will destroy you. You're never going to get your Godhead. You're never going to worship your God of AI. You're never going to cross the Jordan River. You're never going to enter the promised land. You're not supposed to enter the promised land. You're devil worshipers. You're fallen. You're going to be consumed in your own spirit. You need to understand that. And I know you know that. That's why you want to take us with you. And it's not going to happen. You understand? And I know those of you that are really turned over to pure evil understand that you're not going to give up. You can't. You're totally enslaved. But for your minions and other people seeking power, let me explain something to you. You bet on Satan's team, you lose. And you lose big. They've sold this idea of God being some type of candy ass and Christians being wimps. And the whole world's about to find out that's not the case and that's not how it works. People with discernment have way more knowledge of evil than the darkest practitioners of Satanism. But I'm not saying that with some type of pride in it. I know I'm fallen because I have that knowledge. I have the knowledge of good and I have the knowledge of evil. You people only have the knowledge of evil. And that's why you run around inventing new wickedness. And like roaches running from the sun, you run from those of us that are pointed at God. Now, that said, the enemy is going to launch counteroffensives. And while they prepare Antifa and by any means necessary and Black Lives Matter for massive terror attacks coming up November 4th, and before then, as we've already seen, it's important to understand that the media is simultaneously saying, I made it all up, and it isn't real, because they don't want you to be aware of what's going on and what's happening. It's all imploding, just like we broke down. The elites are turning on the Clintons. They realize that as a symbol, they're killing the Democratic Party. Every day that they keep Pelosi and Maxine Waters and the Clintons as their standards, as their signets, as their logos, as their symbols, every day that they keep them in place is doing more damage than you or I could ever do to them. So that's why there's a civil war within the Democratic Party. There is an insurrection within the Republican Party, and it's why you've seen 4 top Republicans resign in just the last month. And then the media spins it like Senator Flake is on a kamikaze mission. Well, we know how that ended for the Empire of Japan. And the old gray ghost, the Lexington, is still docked on the Texas coast. He didn't go to the bottom of Davy Jones's locker. He didn't go to the bottom in Vietnam either. And we're not going to the bottom. The globalists are going to the bottom. That's where they deserve to go. So, that said, ladies and gentlemen, we told you here almost a year ago, we're going to play the video coming up, that it was the FBI director and the Clinton campaign, that deputy director, that financed the fake Russian pissgate that didn't even really come from Russians.